Let's be honest, when most people get into Warhammer 40K, the first thing they learn about and gravitate towards are bolt guns, power armor, and the zealous beliefs of the Imperium. The idea of a larger-than-life space marine or super fanatical sister of battle immediately captures your imagination, standing on a hill, dying for the God Emperor of mankind as you scream out the names of those enemies who would dare defy your holy order. The human indomitable will made manifest. But as you get deeper into the hobby, you start realizing that a lot of these infallible and incorruptible warriors can and have been corrupted. Sometimes sisters and Astartes sell their souls to chaos. Other times they are infested with Xenos threats like the Genestealer spiral code. But more often than not, they are no longer willing to fight for the tyrannical Imperium. They have turned their backs on their holy vows and betrayed everything that was once given to them. In today's video, we are going to cover the Chaos Sisters of Battle, better known as Chaos Sisters. These are once Adeptus sororitas, the greatest icons of the Holy Church of the God Emperor of mankind, turned to the dark machinations of the Chaos Gods, the Pantheon of the Warp, or as Malcador the Hero once called them, the Great Enemy. So come with me as we explore every single instance of Chaos Sisters in canon 40k lore. If they are brainwashed zealot warriors, why or how did they fall to chaos? What could possibly have turned them? Like they already got holy aim hacks and miracles happening on a daily basis. What would they gain from joining chaos? And surprisingly, as I did my research for this video, there are a lot more Chaos Sisters than people make out to be. How does the Imperium not know about this? Are the sister orders and the ecclesiarchy just hiding their records? Or is there something much darker going on here? All that and a whole lot more in today's video. Chaos Sisters are one of my favorite subjects in all of 40k, so I took extra care to make sure every source about them has been included in this video. Alright, let's get into the lore. Before we get into all the individual Chaos Sisters and warbands that have popped up in the lore, we first have to take a quick look at fate within the Imperium, the sisterhoods of the Adeptus sororitas, and why a sister of battle would fall to chaos in the first place. This information is crucial for understanding the characters we are going to cover later in this video, so even if you already know most of this, see it as a quick lore refresher. Fate is one of the greatest weapons ever harnessed by the Imperium, a belief in the divinity of the master of mankind, a shield that has kept the Imperium from collapsing for over 10 millennia. Among the most faithful of the quintillions of Imperial citizens and believers stand the Adepta sororitas. Ever since the Age of Apostasy, the Sisters of Battle have burned a heretic, mutant, Xenos and witch in countless wars of fate, which, in all honesty, might as well be called crusades. The Imperial Guard fights their wars with overwhelming manpower. The Mechanicus brings titans and countless servitorized thralls. The Adeptus Astartes are biologically engineered angels of death. But the Sisters of Battle are the Emperor's fury and wrath, shrouded in faith. A mere mortal woman, clad in power armor and armed with the Holy Bolter, holding the line against uncountable enemies, and more often than not, succeeding in that sacred task. The purity and loyalty of the Sisters of Battle are so well tested that they have become the militant arm of both the ecclesiarchy and the Ordo Hereticus of the Inquisition. Those who join the Sisters are usually taken from the Schola Progenium, where the orphan children of the Imperium's heroes and nobility are taken and trained from an incredibly young age. Within these scholas, the conditioning itself is brutal, and fate is expected to be fervent. Many orphans die within their first years in the Schola Progenium, but those whose spiritual and physical capabilities are considered strong enough and have no direct talents besides an unwavering faith in the Imperium and are born as a girl, are allowed passage to receive further training by the different orders of the sisterhoods. Of course, their training does not end there, and another decade is spent to sharpen the sister to full adulthood. She will be instructed in the use of power armor, memorize the Litany of Fate by heart, will be shown the tactics of the Holy Sisterhoods, and will partake in their rituals until she is nothing more than a frothing zealot. A zealot with a big gun and a complete and almost preternatural lack of fear. In battle, the sisters fight with nothing less than hatred for the faithless. They cover battlefields in flames, they empty their bolt guns into icons of chaos, and as they scream their devotions to the skies, thousands of missionaries, preachers, crusaders, and high-ranking members of the ecclesiarchy join them in their crusade. But as many members who have fought alongside the sisterhoods will tell you, these sisters are more than just nuns. They are more than just warriors. As if blessed by the God Emperor himself, sisters have walked into roaring firestorms, only to come out the other side unscathed. Some sisters fought Chaos Astartes and won with only a blunted chainsword. And as many of you will know, some within their order can revive in the warp and stream back into reality upon golden wings, shining the Emperor's light across the battlefield as a holy saint of the martyred orders. Outside of war, sisters gather in holy places and massive cathedral fortresses. From these monasteries, they watch the populations of the Imperium, moving in the shadows to burn those heretics who would seek to bring down the government before they can become a true threat. Entire worlds that fell to chaos decades ago have been reconquered and realigned with the beliefs of the ecclesiarchy, the sisters bringing both cleansing fire in their flamethrowers and an infectious fire in the souls that can turn even the hardiest heretic into a living martyr for the God Emperor. Across the Imperium, it is whispered and believed that not a single sister has ever fallen to chaos. Ultimately, their warriors are shrouded in miracles and protected by the Emperor himself. Right? From the days they spent in the Schola Progenium, the decades of indoctrination into brainwashing unquestionable love for the Emperor, how could one even comprehend a life without her god? Much like the commissars of the Imperial Guard, the very concept of such a zealous servant falling from grace, falling to chaos, is assumed to be impossible. Yet there are still stories of sisters who have fallen away, a chink in the armor of their soul, not covered by fate, but allowed to fester, tear open, and let the darkness of chaos seep in. After all, every sister knows the story of Sister Superior Miriael Sabathiel. She is the cautionary tale, the example of heresy, and serves as a warning of what no sister may ever repeat. But is the story of Sabathiel real? Is it true she became a champion of Slaanesh for personal power and pleasure? Or is there maybe another reason? Maybe something to do with the corruption within the ecclesiarchy itself? Let's take a look at her actual story, unchanged by imperial propaganda, and try to understand what truly had to happen to make the first ever Chaos Sister in Warhammer 40K lore. Miriael Sabathiel is perhaps the most infamous sister who has fallen to chaos. Every sister of battle knows of her stories, and even the Inquisition looked into her for many centuries. Let's get into her story. Long ago, upon a world named Verdicon, the Order of our Martyred Lady fought the traitor Astartes of the Emperor's children. Although many details of this battle have been lost to time, it was said that this was one of the most vicious wars ever fought by the Sororitas. Miriael Sabathiel, who was a sister superior at the time, was killed during this battle, reported to be missing in action by a sister administrator. But one day, many months later, she reappeared. When she did, Sabathiel was changed. No longer was she a pious warrior of the God Emperor. Instead, she was a dark trophy for the demon prince Balsropt, a newly risen champion of Slaanesh. Miriael had ambitious plans, but she knew the sisters from her order, particularly Canoness Olga Karamans, would never stop hunting her if they found out about her dark new alliances. So Miriael came to Calderus Prime, a backwater world of little to no importance. She knew Olga was active in the nearby Pyrrhus Reach sector, but would not turn her zealous eyes on this often forgotten system. On Caldrus Prime, she committed 3 mass murders, making it clear to the local government she was a corrupted Sister of Battle. The local governor, Regent Pavlov Kurtz, immediately sent messages to the Order of Our Martyred Lady to request assistance. Pavlov did not stop there, however. He spent weeks scouring archives and administratoriums for records of fallen sisters, but could find no trace of them ever existing. So, as would be logical for a pious Imperial, he determined Miriael must have been a fake miscreant, seeking to damage the reputation of the sisterhood. So to give the Sisters of the Martyred Lady more time to arrive, the governor turned to the local merchant and hired bounty hunters, who were known as man-catchers, and hired himself an ex-veteran of the Imperial Guard elite stormtroopers. Taggart, as he was known, had been enhanced by physical cybernetics and reinforced by 2 cybernetic hunting birds, making him the perfect hunter for this impossible heretic. As the man-catcher entered the abandoned city of Namgorod, Canoness Olga Karamans, alongside sisters Elias and Bernadette, arrived and met with the regent to debrief him on the situation. What the regent learned next was horrific news. Miriael was indeed an actual fallen sister, and more importantly, she was among the best of them. She would kill anyone who would try to stop her. Regent Pavlov regretted sending in Taggart. While he did not like mercenaries, he never wanted to send a man to his death. The sisters were offered the assistance of a large detachment of the Planetary Defense Forces, the very best on the planet, but Canoness Karamans refused. Miriael was a delicate matter, and she would not risk the news of a Chaos Sister residing on Caldrus Prime spreading throughout the population. When she and her bodyguards arrived in Namgorod, they walked straight into a trap. Sister Bernadette was killed when one of Taggart's hunting birds plunged right into her skull. Sister Elias was doused in her sister's flamer by accident and was put out of her misery when Taggart's Helgun put a last bolt through her head. Canoness Karamans, however, would be confronted by Miriael herself instead of the newly corrupted Taggart, as seen in the short story The Invitation. Miriael? Karamans turned in a slow, wary circle, her mace ready. "Was I so easy to find?" asked a voice from the dark. "Miriael? Was I so easy to find?" "Yes!" Karamans hissed. "Good. Miriael, please, I want to help you." A shadow disengaged itself from the night. Just a shadow, hunched and puppet-like, its long, shaggy hair backlit by the glow of the snowfall. "I knew you would come looking for me," the shadow said. "I knew you would hunt me forever." "I want to help you," the shadow laughed. "By the power of the throne and the God Emperor," Karamans began. "Shut up, I won't listen to that anymore. Miriael, there are so many things I want to do, so many things I need to do, but all the while you are hunting for me, I can't be free. I needed this." "This? Oh, great lady, why do you think I made it so easy for you to find me?" Olga Karamans froze, her grip on the haft of her mace tightened. "I wanted you to come, so we could be done with this." The shadow stepped closer. It wasn't Miriael, it was a rough-set woodsman in an armored jack, swaying and pale, wounded. He held out a hunting lass across his chest, but made no attempt to raise it. "Miriael, my Lord Balsropt has plans for me," the hidden voice said, "but I can't accomplish them all the while you're hounding me, so I called you here, so this could be done with." Canoness Olga Karamans swung around and raised her mace in defense. The sword, its blade as bright as the snowlight, was already inside her guard. It ripped through her gown and plate armor and opened her body to the spine. She fell, pouring hot blood onto the cold floor. Steam rose. Behind her veil, her mouth opened and closed uselessly. "Hush," said the voice. "We'll speak no more about it." After having killed her former canoness, Miriael turned to Taggart. As Taggart was a former stormtrooper, there is a real possibility that he went to the Schola Progenium just like Miriael, and the fact that she corrupted him in mere hours is something absolutely horrifying. Taggart was now a friend and a tool of Miriael, an impressive one at that, as he had killed 2 Sisters of Battle with nothing but a slight bruise. When he asked her where they would go next, Miriael simply asked how good he was at hunting Eldar. Currently, we do not know where Miriael is, but what we do know is that she has built an entire warband of corrupted sisters from the Order of the Argent Shroud. Most likely, she and her warband, alongside Taggart on hand, are hunting Eldar for Balsropt to make worthy sacrifices for the Chaos God Slaanesh. So yeah, Miriael built an entire warband of Chaos Sisters in the matter of years, but sadly, we have no idea what she is up to right now. Unlike the next Chaos Sister, Oleande The Iconoclast, a Khorne-corrupted Chaos Sister who wants nothing more than the blood and skulls of her old sisterhood. Across distant colony worlds of the Imperium, there was a plague of destruction and faithless heresy. On over 100 worlds, a champion of Khorne rose to power, declaring herself as the Iconoclast. This dark champion turned entire worlds into charnel houses for Khorne, but whenever the Imperium killed this champion, another champion on a Khorne world would adopt the same identity. Side note, I can't help but feel like Tzeentch may have inspired Khorne a bit here. For the Sisters of Battle for the Martyred Lady, killing the Iconoclast wherever they appeared was important. The Iconoclast bloodlust created many wars of fate. Their latest uprising was on the world of Mesida Quintus, and if they did not stop the Iconoclast now, she would grow beyond even the power of the Imperium's Angels of Death. The Sisters of Battle were slaughtered by the Iconoclast armies and pushed to their very limits. Sisters who were wounded were dragged away to be tortured, or just went completely missing, and then were later found crucified, drained of all their blood. Yet, when the Iconoclast made a final stand on Mesida, Sister Miriael from the Order of the Martyred Lady found herself suddenly joined by the Celestant Oleande of the Order of the Valorous Heart, a fellow, uninvited Order of Sororitas. Miriael and Oleande had fought together before and knew each other well enough. But something was off here. Oleande was hiding something. Miriael was a bruised and bloodied wreck. Her anger and emotions were running hot. Oleande, however, was infamous for her unpredictable moods. So when Oleande ordered Miriael and her sisters to step aside to let the Valorous Heart finish the Iconoclast, there was an argument that boiled over into a fight. The Martyred Lady and Valorous Heart could not agree who would be the one to slay the Iconoclast, so it was agreed to send the matter to a local High Abbess. Yet the Valorous Heart went back on their word, fought their way through Mechanicus allies, slaughtering dozens of tech priests, and attempted to attack the encircled Iconoclast, who had been caught up inside a massive cathedral. Miriael followed with her sisters, both to help the Valorous Heart, but also to confront them in such an act of betrayal. By the time the Sisters of Battle reached the Iconoclast, they had lost many more sisters. Suddenly, ambushes by teams of cultists carrying autocannons and camo cloaks opened up. These weapons were utter overkill against the power armor of the sisters, and before they could respond, over half the force was completely obliterated. Miriael felt her rage reach a new height. Khorne preyed on her psyche, whispering in her ear of betrayal and revenge, and it took all of her strength to maintain sanity. Yet only now did the Iconoclast fully reveal themselves. Oleande lay beaten on the ground, and the Iconoclast removed their blank doll face that each previous Iconoclast wore. Miriael was ready to kill the Iconoclast, even if it meant Oleande had to die, but something stopped her. The Khorne leader laughed and removed her mask. Beneath it was the scarred face of Sister Oleande. The Iconoclast was never a different person, it had always been Sister Oleande. The shame was so great for the Valorous Heart that they replaced her with a fake sister, a heretical replica, a clone, something to cover up the heresy and give them time to hunt the newly formed Iconoclast. Sister Miriael refused to believe Oleande could ever fall, but the heretic reminded her of the times they fought together. Oleande was a woman of violence and anger. She loved cutting and killing her enemies. For her, the fate and fire of the Emperor was not enough. She wanted more. She wanted blood and skulls. Miriael tested Oleande's memory. The one who became the Iconoclast gave the correct answers, but the one on the ground could not answer them. Miriael was being tested again, and Khorne wanted another champion. Sister Hospitaller Verity, however, who had been dying on the ground for minutes now, shot Oleande mid-sentence, having grown tired of her words. Yet Oleande rose from the dead one more time. Darkness enveloped her like wings of evil, and her sword burned with rage incarnate. But as Miriael charged the heretic, the fake Oleande and Sister Verity joined in her last charge, cutting down the Iconoclast and ensuring she could never rise again. But the story doesn't end there. This shame cannot be known to anyone. This information can never be spread, as seen in Heart and Soul. The surviving sister of the valorous heart, the one who had subsumed herself in a traitor's identity to protect her order's virtue, now aimed her power sword at Miriael's throat. "You should never have come after us," she said quietly. "My duty is clear." "She won't let us live," said Verity, drawing the bolter close. "We saw Oleande, the true sister Oleande, and what she has become. We are witnesses to her sisterhood's greatest disgrace. That was the command you were given, was it not? Do whatever must be done to ensure that this secret is never revealed." The battle sister nodded. "Just so. Anyone who learns of this shame must not be allowed to speak of it. I am sorry, sister." The woman planted her sword in the dirt and pulled a pair of crack grenades from her belt. "But this is how it must be." "I disagree." Miriael placed her hands over the grips of the explosive devices. "You have sacrificed so much to this mission, your very self, and I have given much too. My service and my blood, my sisters. But if we perish here today, that duty ends, and the enemy still endures. Not just the foe without, but the foe within." She closed her eyes for a moment and remembered the horrible sense of temptation ghosting at the edges of her thoughts. To live was to be in battle with it, day after day, but to live was also to defy it and make each breath a victory against the darkness. "But this is my failure. I must sacrifice." "You must live, Sister Oleande. You must live. Else the archenemy will have their victory, and all you have done, all we have done, will be for naught." "We will not speak of what we have seen here," said Verity. "I vow this, on the honor of the Order of Serenity. I will carry it to my grave unspoken." "I vow this," repeated Miriael, "on the honor of the Order of our Martyred Lady, and in the name of Saint Catherine, I will carry it to my grave unspoken. What say you, sister?" Oleande nodded. Even though she was not expected to survive her mission, only the God Emperor decided when her duty ended. The thing is, in this story, the Iconoclast dies as she did before, so it is still incredibly likely that within now and a couple of centuries, Khorne will revive his favorite sister champion. We see the same thing with Khorne, who was revived multiple times, Angron, who can respawn like every 8 weeks, and even Lotara, who after multiple years serving Chaos, became one with her ship, and has become immortal in everything but name. Besides this, just her mere existence almost caused 2 entire orders to go to war. That's the same as 2 Space Marine chapters giving up on serving the Imperium and instead just throwing hands on multiple moons and planets, until either one side is destroyed or the Inquisition shows up and sends them both on a penitent crusade. The fact that only one traitor sister can cause this shows how important the fate of the sisters really is. The moment they see only a glimpse of something that counteracts their views, it simply breaks their spirit. It shatters their beliefs and makes it very easy for entire squads, crusades, and even orders to just fall to chaos. But while the Iconoclast is a pretty insane story, it doesn't hold a candle to our next Chaos sister, who started out as a Genestealer corrupted sister, who then fell to Chaos. Let's take a look at Antelka Arcanto, the Chaos Genestealer cultist. Before her fall, Etelka Arcanto was a mere line sister for the Order of the Torn Eternal on the backwater world known as Vitarn. Vitarn was a world of admittedly little word, but one the Imperium still tided. But known only to the locals, its rock was deeply tainted. Ancient stories of great evils spread throughout the populations. Farmers and hive workers disappeared at times, and a great fear rose in the Vitarnian settlements. So an abbey of the sisters was built, housing 50 warriors under Canoness Evelyn. The deployed sororitas were relentless witch hunters, cleaning dark streets and strange individuals who popped up around the countryside. But more importantly, the abbey attempted to bait a malign demon into a trap, to finally cleanse the world of its taint, yet this had not proven successful in decades. One day, a trio of Genestealers came to the planet, and as they explored and hunted the tainted landscapes, one of them began to form a cult around his newly acquired acolytes. As this newly created patriarch's psychic powers grew, he came to understand the fate of the local sisters, and saw weakness in Sister Arcanto. Her fate had corroded over time, bad nightmares haunted her sleep, and she harbored many dark doubts that she refused to share with her order. The patriarch fed into her fear, slowly turning Arcanto against her sisters, telling her that they knew that she would be killed, for they were all heretics, and she was so very loyal. Her loyalty began to unravel into pure loathing for her sisters, and soon she was anointed as the first apostle of the Sacred Spiral, the newly risen Genestealer cult. It took less than a month for Arcanto to be corrupted and to betray her sisters. She was the one who opened the gates of the abbey, letting in the sieging cult to slaughter her once sisters. As the siege ended, the heretic disappeared into the night. Yet, this is not where her story ends. Arcanto was important to her cult and was even dubbed a saint by the Genestealers. Her first son would lead to the creation of the cult Magi, but to make matters worse, some humans in the world had given in to dark temptations and chaos was corrupting them. And one day, open conflict between the Genestealer cult and the Chaos cult began. This conflict would come to a head when Saint Arcanto was injured and confronted by the ghost of her old Canoness. Canoness Evelyn tore into Arcanto in a vision, calling out her failures, her blasphemies and treason. During this vision, Arcanto's mental defenses were made so weak that the demon that infested the world saw a dark opportunity and possessed her. On some level, she even accepted, wanting the horrific vision of her old master to stop. Arcanto turned into something between a possessed and a demon prince, and immediately turned on her once Genestealer cult. Although this is where her story ends for now, her son is determined to capture her and remove the dark taint that took hold of her, wanting to cleanse his mother of all corruptions, both alien and chaotic. But it's time to start looking at groups of sisters falling to chaos, instead of individual champions. Let's take a look at one of the coolest pieces of Khorne lore in all of 40k. Let's talk about the Murder Curse. Khorne is the chaos god of bloodshed and rage, and when his greatest champion, Angron, the past son of the Emperor, died when he destroyed the coral engine of Malakbiel, it brought about the Murder Curse. The events of the Arcs of Omen have a massive impact on the lore, bringing back two Primarchs, Rabute Gilliman and my beloved Lionel Johnson, and also introducing Vashtor, the minor Chaos God deity thing that makes the weapons of the warp and is essentially the god of the Dark Mechanicum. I should do a video on him at some point. Let me know down in the comment section below if that's what you want to see. There's a lot more lore on him than most people give him credit for. The world of Malakbiel was destroyed alongside the coral engine, its core imploding as the engine vanished. Angron was flung into the warp, only to return later to face his brother Lion. But the devastation in the local system was, for a lack of better words, insane. 3 locally besieged planets, Malakra, Malakvar and Malakshad, were pounded by burning debris, and when Admiral Aquilent Pell raced headlong to relieve the evacuating Imperial forces, entire fleets were lost from the dead of Malakbiel. those still trapped in the Malak system were the first to feel the curse take hold. In a single moment, men and women began to scream, frothing as they slowly turned around. Soldiers turned on each other, and rescue missions turned into kill missions. Many would only see blood as veins grew and burst. One after the other, soldiers and civilians began to howl in rage and attack the nearest living being, whether they were friend or foe. No words were spoken except for the praises of Khorne. Evacuation pilots rammed their ships into brawling mobs. Warships stopped moving, and every deck was covered in brawls and fights. Admiral Aquilant was eaten alive by his own crew. Only a few individuals were spared from the murder curse, alongside the few present Adeptus Custodes, Grey Knights, and Sisters of Silence. In a dozen sectors, the curse spread. Primaris Marines, priests, inquisitors, and even Sisters of Battle gave into violence. Indomitus Fleet Quartus was completely lost and declared excommunicatory Taurus, as 80% of the entire crusade fell to madness, and the millions who remained loyal were condemned alongside them. Entire heretic armies and killer hordes became utterly devoted to Khorne. This murder curse was even spread by these warbands. In one battle, the Salamanders fell on the Mordian 982nd Infantry Regiment, who found the curse spreading among their own ranks. In another world, the corrupted sisters killed the innocent, and the priest of fate was still glowing with holy light. So although this murder curse is an outside force that turned thousands of Sisters of Battle to Khorne, it isn't fully willing. But when you are on the other side, holding a siege against frothing Khornate sororitas, I don't think you would care about how they got there. You will just want to try and survive. Now, the following part of this video is based around a novel that I can only describe as complex, but also one of the most unique 40k books I have read in the last 20 years. Let's take a look at Requiem Infernal, which is essentially the Imperial cult pushing it a little too far, into what can only be described as excess. Yeah, a chaotic Imperial cult. The story of Requiem Infernal follows the story of Hospitaller Asenath Hiades on the world of Hitarn. Yes, this is the same world from the story of Sister Akanto, but Requiem Inferno acts as both a prequel and essentially standalone story. Hospitaller Asenath returned to Hitarn after 20 years of serving elsewhere in the Imperium, but when she returned, it was as though everything had been flipped upside down. Instead of being spread across the surface of the planet, the local Order of Sisters had dedicated hundreds of warriors to guard a single port city halfway across the world, away from the Abbey. For centuries, the Order of the Eternal Candle was known for its compassion and love, taking care of the communities around them, forgiving those who made small mistakes, and for what is uncharacteristic for the Imperium of mankind, even showing tiny sparks of forgiveness and understanding. But when Hospitaller Asenath returned after those 20 long years, the Order had changed. The cruelest aspects of the Imperial Creed had taken hold. The Sisters act debased and evil, symbolizing everything the Eternal Candle taught to reject. The entire world that was once Asenath's home was all wrong, some might even say corrupted. Chapels were filled with wretches who were struck blind. Asenath began to wonder how her former sect had fallen so quickly. But more importantly, the Hospitaller herself is also not safe from sin, as she was once a Repentia, and she starts to consider if maybe this is not so bad after all. Redemption could be gained decades later. Why would she not be allowed such a liberty? Asenath gave into a dark voice in her mind. She named it Mercy, a voice that enjoyed every thrill in combat, taking pain in excess and dealing it out just as much, as seen in Requiem Infernal. "Cleanse the heretics!" the Mistress of Thorns bellows, cracking her six-pronged whip. "For Throne and Torn! Throne and Torn!" The hooded sisters gather around her. As one, they rouse their iron-toothed eviscerator swords and hurl themselves upon the enemy without hesitation or hope. Howling the lament of the lost, they charge and fight and slay and die across numberless fields of battle. Mercy is always the first amongst them, faster and fiercer than her fellow sisters Repentia. Her black tunic is stained with filth and old blood, for water cannot wash away her sins, so she abhors its touch. Thorny vines wrap around her muscular limbs, scratching and snagging at her skin as she moves, but the joy of their pain has long ago receded to a dull ache. Only the dance of battle offers her any delight now. Mercy! She howls with every kill. Her eyes are bloodshot wounds in the slits of her hood, bright with sanctioned malice as she slaughters in some emperor's god name and revels in her own mercy. In battle, she is deaf to everything save the commands of her mistress, the roar of her blade and the death shrieks of her foes. But when the fighting is done, the voice of her enchained sisters always returns. In the silence, her grey shadow is never silent, castigating Mercy with memories of their fall, until she longs for the crack of the neural whip that will herald the sweet delirium of battle once more. Nothing else can drown out the old sister's whinging. Requiem Infernal takes the deep, insidious corruption of chaos to a whole new level. And there's a rather important point to be made by the end of the novel, but instead of spoiling it, I just highly recommend you read this novel for yourself. It is different from most other 40k novels, but it is also a great read if you are able to get through the first 10%. As we have seen so far, the Sisters of Battle are some of the best equipped warriors in the Imperium regarding fighting chaos. So how can they still fall? To summarize the fallen sisters we have covered so far, they all had their own unique ways of falling. Miriael Sabathiel fell due to outside circumstances. She was among the greatest of her order, but when her corpse and presumably soul were captured by a demon prince of Sanesh, she was broken and corrupted. Miriael is treated as a cautionary tale by the Imperium, but in all honesty, it only serves to show just how insidious the champions of chaos can be. Oleande The Iconoclast fell because of her own desires and rage. Her enjoyment of combat was something that created an imprint in her devotion to the Emperor. Great warriors are rewarded within the Imperium, but those rewards pale in comparison to what Khorne offers to those who become his champions. More importantly, Oleande admitted she only wanted blood and skulls, something that Khorne can provide better than anyone else. Sister Arcanto is a rather unique story. While she was filled with doubt, her first fall came from something even the most stalwart sisters are not safe from: the predations of a Genestealer patriarch. And years later, when confronted with the sins of her past, she was in a much weakened state, allowing chaos to twist her into their will, whether she liked it or not. Regarding Sister Asenath and the Order of the Eternal Candle, they were their own worst enemy. By trying to be everything they are not, they allowed themselves to rot from the inside out. Asenath had a dark twin, Mercy, and Mercy loved every moment of being a Repentia. The pain, the violence. Instead of allowing Asenath to repent, she became a monster. But the video doesn't stop here. I have kept one more kind of fallen sisters in my pocket. Let's look at the sisters who joined the Tau Empire. Yeah, canonical blueberry-loving Sisters of Battle. But a sister wanting to join the Tau is a ridiculous idea, right? Or is it? Well, perhaps not, as we see with Sister Verity of the Order Dialogus. Sister Verity wrote an extensive report known as Thoughts on the Tau Language, which we get to read complete and without any redactions in the Tau Empire 3rd edition codex. Now, the Tau language is interesting, but we are here to focus on Sister Verity. She was originally assigned to study and translate the Xenos language, but also to understand their culture so the Imperium might find a weakness to hopefully exploit. Yet during this report, Sister Verity actually starts praising the Tau on many accounts, and after spending 6 months working on this first report, she is seemingly a little too eager to be assigned more opportunities to study the Tau. She considers the Tau a highly developed race. She speaks of certain aspects of Tau society with high regard. She even goes as far as calling the Fire Warriors fearsome warriors. And most of all, she considers the way the Tau engage with each other noble and worthy. It is safe to say that the reports also include some Ordo Xenos addendums, The most important being a note that recommends Sister Verity to be questioned regarding possible alien contamination. We have also seen in more recent novels like Elemental Council that Tempestus Science have joined the Tau Empire, and in one of the Deadwatch novels we are greeted with a former Imperial nobleman who is named Rabute Gilliman. No, that is not a joke, his name is actually that. And the Marine who encounters him is so eager to share the news with his Ultramarine squad member. Absolutely great book. So while it would still be rare, even rarer than a sister falling to chaos, it is more than feasible for a sister to fall in line with the Tau. These were all the canonical sources we have for traitor sisters, amounting to probably around 5 to 10,000 actual traitor sororitas. There might be way more out there, but as we have found out over and over, the Ecclesiarchy does everything in its power to hide these dark secrets. Now, here comes why you were probably watching this video. Let's talk about whether this is even a good thing at all. Did we really need corrupted sisters? Couldn't they just keep the Adepta Sororitas completely incorruptible? Why is Games Workshop doing this over and over? First, it was rare for Marines to fall. Then we had those Custodes who were controlled by Chaos during the Siege of Terra. Did they really have to ruin the sisters as well? As times have changed in the Warhammer 40K franchise, and the authors for codexes, campaign books and novels have been given more and more time to build out the setting, the way we understand the warp and the chaos gods that lie within has expanded exponentially. What started as a dark power that just wanted chaos and to corrupt and to destroy this galaxy has slowly turned into something more sinister. It has turned into true corruption. Not just of the physical, not just the mind, but the base beliefs of the righteous. Chaos throughout the last 10,000 years in lore and almost 40 years in real life has changed a lot for Warhammer 40k. The sisters, with our original understanding of the warp, indeed would never have been corrupted. But I guess as the stories continues, so does corruption, so does the taint of chaos spread, and so do we get Chaos Sisters alongside Chaos Astartes. The dichotomy of Chaos power armored forces now finally completed. We have read hundreds of stories of Space Marines, Guardsmen and even Inquisitors falling to Chaos. And maybe it's just me, but it's kinda getting still when you read every other 40k book. This represents something more interesting, not a corruption of the psyche, but a corruption of the imperial fate, turning the belief in the God Emperor of mankind into a weapon that can destroy itself. It now also makes sense that being immune to chaos is almost impossible. Even the Emperor himself was essentially slowly turning into a chaos god as part of becoming the Dark King. As we saw with the Murder Curse, only the Grey Knights, Custodes and Sisters of Silence were immune. Sisters of Battle, of course, are still highly resistant to chaos corruption, but when some curse on that scale happens, that's like asking a single frigate ship to solo an entire Tyranid high fleet and come out unscathed. But even in ancient 40k lore, there are stories of questionable sisters. Maybe not immediately chaos corrupted, but adjacent enough where you might as well call them a heretic. Per example, Canoness Erin Satano, a sister of battle who destroyed her own entire order. Satano could even have become the Abbess Sanctorum were it not for her order, the Piercing Thorn, being destroyed. Why it was destroyed is something surrounded by a lot of rumors. But one important theory was that the order was tainted by chaos, and Satano had requested the Inquisition to cleanse them. Also a fun note, in the story where Satano appears, she is as tall as one of the Space Marine characters, and he does not like that at all. There are also plenty of stories where the Sisters of Battle resist chaos at its worst, such as we see in Demonifuge. Quick side note, in Demonifuge, a group of sisters are tortured and mutated by the powers of Sanesh, but never actually fall. A lot of people like to call these Chaos Sisters as well, but they really aren't. They are just the unfortunate subjects of a horrible chaos accident. Also worth to mention is the Blood Tide, a Dark Age of Technology superweapon that when used by the Demon Prince Voldorius was used to drown entire worlds in blood by exploding the people that infected it. A group of Sisters of Battle managed to actually be immune to this, a weapon that is part reality-bending technology and part raw chaos. But what do you think of all of this? Which of the Chaos Sisters that we covered today is your favorite and why? If you could write your own fallen Chaos Sister order, what would they be like and why would they have fallen from the light of the Emperor? If they had rules on the tabletop, what kind of units would you like to see? I personally would love to see a Khorne Berserker equivalent of the Sisters Repentias, but then all chaos corrupted and ready to shed unending blood in the name of Khorne. Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would also make me very happy. Thank you for watching and I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.